more.
Really?
Yeah.
No problems?
No problems. No problems. Living here just like living in heaven.
Living in heaven? Even after this last year?
Even. Yeah, different countries, it's like they have worse than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, there's no comparison.
You're a proud American.
Of course we're proud.
I think the immigrants are teaching all the lessons right now.
When you come from different background,
Yeah.
you'll see the difference. You will feel the difference when you come over here.
That's exactly
That's
what
why.
I was telling you too.
But if you born and grow up here, you don't know the difference. You cannot tell.
There you go. Good camera work. All right. Lentil soup. This is my second one. And absolutely delicious. This is amazing. Classic Middle Eastern food, right? Lentil soup?
Yeah,
Lentil?
this is Iraqi, yeah.
Okay.
And this is the Iraqi bread also.
Something happened in my brain. Definitely hit the soul. This
It
is
does,
soul
it does,
food,
it
right?
does. It
It's
is,
like
yes, it
home
is.
cooked.
Yes, it is.
Everything's
Yes, this is home when you're away from home.
okay. So let's do some introduction.
Okay.
What's your name?
Hussein Alamari.
You guys are buddies.
Yes, we are buddies.
You're a cop here in Dearborn.
Yes, in Dearborn, Michigan.
Thank you for talking on camera.
Thank
You're the
you, of
first
course.
cop I've been able to get on camera
Really?
after a year and a half of trying.
Okay.
So run us through
I
the.
wish I was in uniform. I would have made it for you like your goal. But yeah, I started off. So I came to this country really young. I'm from Iraq, from southern Iraq, Nasiriyah. So
How'd you become a cop?
exactly, that's a good question. I was gonna just answer that. Well, you beat me to it, darn it. So I can read and write Arabic really well. So I wanted to become an FBI agent. You know?
Right.
My dream was to become an FBI because I thought it was the coolest thing. I found out it's a boring job. I don't want to do it. I like being a street cop. I became a correctional officer first, working in prison with people doing life. Interesting stories about these people.
How was that?
Oh my God.
Crazy
I
time?
loved it. Crazy
You
time.
loved it.
I loved it because I'm crazy. But I had to.
Do you have to be crazy to be a cop to some degree? You gotta like danger.
Yes, you have to like danger, and you have to like excitement. You have to be a people's person. If you're not a people's person, you're on the wrong field.
Gotcha.
You have to. It's like what you do. You know, imagine you don't talk to people.
Yeah.
How would you get anybody in an interview?
Yeah.
Never.
Not happening.
I love food. Cops love food, by the way.
But you're not doing donuts.
Can we do donuts and coffee after this or no?
If you want.
Of course.
There we go. We have a Bob situation, lamb, chicken, and beef.
Yes, beef, tomatoes, onions, pickles. Policing in general has changed all over the country.
Right.
It's becoming where we can't do our job the way we should do. Because people are being so sensitive and it's getting offended. You can't even tell people things you want to tell them anymore. You can't even tell a kid, hey, not that often anymore. Let's do something else.
You can't do that.
No, because people they take all the content and try to place it against the police officers.
So why have you guys not been able to speak all this last year and a half? Like, haven't been able to get one cop except the Iraqi cop, Iraqi American cop in Dearborn, Michigan.
You know why? Because the police officers are human beings and they have families and friends and they're afraid of their life. They're afraid they lose their job. They're afraid they say something on the camera where people take it into different content.
You're not afraid.
I'm not, because I see the truth. I say what's on my mind, and I know I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not saying anything wrong. I love everybody. I protect anybody. Anybody calls me, I respond to that call. I don't respond to that color or the voice of that call. I respond to them as a person that needs help. Because let me tell you something else. When you call the police, it's probably the worst day of your life. You never call the police when you're happy, do you? Or are you wedding? Some people call the police at the worst day of their life. Some people never call the police ever, only one time, correct? And that one time you better go there and help them. And I don't care who it is, I'm gonna go there and help that person is. So people don't realize what we deal with. We deal with the most angry person or the most person that's feeling danger at that call. Have you ever called the police when you're at a party? Never.
No, you don't.
Call them when you need them. So what we deal with is what people don't. When I was a kid, I seen a police officer kick the door in my country and treat my mom very rude and disrespectfully and threw my mom to the ground. And I'm for no reason. And I'm like, I would never want to be that person. I would never go ahead and disrespect a lady for absolute no reason. Now there's a time and place for everything, but for no reason they think they have the authority of the world. Yes, it's good to have authority. It's good that I have the authority to do things, but I never abuse authority. You should never, no police officer should abuse authority.
There's some bad cops that do, right?
There's bad and good everywhere.
With everything.
With everything. There's good doctors, bad doctors. We take doctors to jail almost every week over here on frauds and fraud prescriptions and stuff.
Right.
It's huge. Nobody looks at that. You know why? Because the pharmaceutical companies want to make their money. Well, nobody exposes that. But a cop does one thing wrong, he's all over social media. Let's take the police away for 24 hours in America. No police. 24 hours, there's no crime. There's no police, no authority. You don't go to jail. You can do whatever you want. If you think you can go out your house and find your car outside your driveway still, I think you're out of your mind. Oh,
how do you guys feel?
It'll be Black Friday for every day. I'm dead serious. Free everything. You need law in order to keep the country safe and everybody happy.
That's you to the uniform.
Yes. That was the police week in Washington 2 years ago.
What's that video you were showing?
One of my TikTok videos, me and my partner back in Detroit. I'm teaching him how to do an Arabic dance. Look at him, he's looking at me like, what are you doing? What is he doing? Look here, they think they can fool me.
Can I get your registration, license, proof, insurance, please? No English, sir.
No problem.
English?
Got him. He had nothing to say.
Oh, it's a skit.
That one. No.
Okay.
They don't call life, but that happens here daily. Or they think they can get away with not speaking Arabic, but we have Arabic police officers working now. I'm at 50 cents. That's a show from the power. You know more about social media more than I am.
Right.
People love the police. The majority of this country, the majority of people here love the police. When they've seen it, people think what happened to police in the last year and a half is a bad thing. I think it's the best thing that happened to police. Because it shows people that how much you need the police. Sometimes bad things have to happen for good things to show up. Like the fund the police movement, I'm glad it happened because it showed people, hey, you don't know what the hell you're talking about because you can never do it.
You know who says that though? People living in safe neighborhoods. They're not dealing with the BS.
Yeah.
They're not dealing with crime.
Yeah, they come.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, they come from different towns to towns that are already ruined and protest. Go protest in your own town. We had a big issue here in Detroit. We arrested like 43 at the night of the riots and protests. Detroit police arrested like 43 people. Probably 2 of them live in the city. And the chief said that. He said none of them were from here. None of them had an address on their ID of our city. We're the outsiders.
So to be a cop here is one of the better places because you have very strong community support here, right?
Correct. I started in Detroit, but I came here.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger as to what follows. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. And before we begin, please like, please subscribe, please share. Please hit me up on Patreon. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And this topic is something that we had covered before, but this particular live right now is, again, reiterating certain things that we have mentioned in the past. Okay, now, those of you who are watching this clip that I played of this Iraqi brother who was living in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan. And so you're probably wondering why I played that clip. Well, I'm about to tell you, and then we're going to get into our topic and see how these two topics intersect, inshallah. So, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Tika. And let's get right into it. So, Before we begin, also subscribe to the features on the library. That's lbry.com, and the features on the infamous features on YouTube as well. Those are our overflow sites. As you know, we get shut down quite a bit, right? Quite a bit we get shut down, right? So, anyways, family, this Iraqi brother, he came during the times, obviously, of the turmoil that was happening in the height of the Iraq War to Canada, and now he has come to Canada. Him, and as many Iraqis do, not just Iraqis, but as well as Arabs and South Asians and whatnot, looking for the American dream, for lack of better words. I know it's a little bit cliche, but that's the truth, right? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Islam in perspective. Hayakum Allah. So when he is describing his experience in America, he's describing it as, it's a dream. And, he said things like, if you think that it's bad here, you need to go and travel to other places. And then you see how it is, based upon his experience, what he went through in Iraq and when he went through to the States. And there, of course, there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. However, there was a whole bunch missing in his outlook. And this is generally the type of perspective that you find Easterners that they take when it comes to living in Western society. Y'all hearing me? So when it comes to living in Western society, you'll find many Muslims who, generally they love living in Western society. As me, myself, I said before many times, I'm a proud Canadian. I love living in Canada. That's a fact. However, we have to look at things in a holistic manner. And it's not about dogging Canada or dogging the States, but we have to understand how we got into the condition that we're in today. How is it that we have all these Muslim countries being dominated by a very few Europeans, and why we are in this state? Y'all hearing me? So the Iraqi brother, as well as the rest of those Iraqi brothers, they come from a war-torn Iraq, right? They come from war-torn Iraq. And one of the brother in the beginning, he described living in America as heaven. As he said, it's like heaven. Why? Because he came from Iraq. You know what I mean? Anybody who was living in Iraq with the devastation that happened there will describe almost any place better than Iraq. You understand? They'll describe almost any place better than Iraq. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abu Sufyan. Y'all hearing me? So as he's going through and he's talking about details about how everybody loves the police, and you know what I mean, and if you were to defund the police and lose the police for a day, then the whole country will go into anarchy, and all these type of kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, man. It's like idealistic positions. These type of idealistic positions based upon the here and now. He's missing, as many of our brothers from the East are all brothers and sisters from the East. They always miss very important details of their existence. And so instead of calling out the enemy, They want to fraternize and thank the enemy. What do you mean, Bilal? What I mean is, this brother here, he is from Iraq, correct? Now he's living in the States, correct? And he's living the American dream. He's got a good job as a police officer. He's around his people in Dearborn, all the Arabic community out there in Dearborn, Michigan. The question is, how did Iraq become bombed out and depleted in the first place? Y'all hearing me? He mentioned a situation where the police barged into his house and assaulted his mother right in front of him. You understand? Beat her up and threw her on the ground and kicked her and all kind of stuff right in front of him as he's a child. The police in Iraq did this to a woman. You understand? When the police were doing this, who was the leader of Iraq at that time? It was Saddam Hussein, correct? Who put Saddam Hussein in power of Iraq? Put it in the chat, please. Who put Saddam Hussein in power in Iraq? Put it in the chat, please. That's the million-dollar question. Which government put Saddam Hussein in power in Iraq, trained him in certain tactics, right? I want y'all to put it in the chat first, right? To see where, who knows, right? This is important information. It's very important details that you're leaving out of this narrative that United States is like a heaven and, you know what I mean? And best country on earth. And as he describes it, and, it's safety and you can be whoever you want. Who put Saddam Hussein in charge in Iraq? Put it in the chat. Let's see who knows. Who knows? Who was it? Do y'all know? Who put us? Who? Thank you. Thank you, Abu Sufyan. It was the same country that he's praising today. The same country that destroyed his country, his homeland, is the same country that he praises today. Y'all see the massive contradiction here? Yes, we understand the safety that we have as Westerners living in the West. However, from the tactics of the enemy is to get people just like him to sing the praises of the enemy to the world, to make everything look like everything's honky-dory and ain't nothing to see up in here. And as Muslims, when we are praising things, we have to look at the entire picture. There are very high chances that he would not be in the U.S. today if the U.S. hadn't even put Saddam Hussein, the USA's dictator, in charge of Iraq. CIA trained Saddam Hussein. CIA trained. Y'all hear me? During the Cold War, In the 80s, it was Iraq versus Iran, the Iraq-Iran war. Saddam Hussein at that time was the butcher of many Iranians, as Iran was doing this thing called Operation Human Wave, because they didn't have weapons and stuff. So they just sent loads of human beings. That's what they call it, Operation Human Wave. Loads of human beings with guns and untrained human beings just to get mowed down. You understand? By Iraq. But who put these borders in? Who put these people in charge? That was a Cold War between Russia and America. And they had, who did they have fighting their war? Darker skinned people in the Middle East. So what does all this have to do with this teacher that got called out in Quebec? We're getting to that. We are getting to that. So before we do get into that, let me just set up this video here so you can see what I'm talking about, inshallah. 1 second, let me set it up. Let's see here. And what we see in the Muslim community is this praising the enemy, the same enemies that destroy your countries. You praise them and you want to live in their countries and participate as equals in their countries, while your countries get bombed out and depleted, robbed of all their resources. And to be quite honest, a bulk of the blame can be put on the Muslims directly, because the way that we act towards each other, incredibly treacherous. We are living in the times of incredible hypocrisy. That's the best way to describe it. So give me 1 second here, Juan.
The messages are clear outside this school in Chelsea, Quebec. Support for Fatima Anvari, the grade 3 teacher who was removed from her classroom job for wearing a hijab.
Honestly, at that second, it was just shock. It was very hard to process.
Anvari is concerned about her safety, so CBC News has agreed not to show her face.
Kids were so confused. They saw me in the hallway and they asked me why I cannot be their teacher anymore.
The school board says it had to follow the rules of Quebec's Bill 21 that prohibits public sector workers from wearing religious symbols.
We're not in favor of this bill. We find it discriminatory. We've stated so. But as citizens of the province of Quebec, we are expected to follow the law and will do so.
It's a popular law in the province, but it's facing several court challenges. And English school boards like this one have fought for an exemption. But last month, a judge ruled the law will apply to everyone while the cases play out in the courts. One student made this card, saying she misses Ms. Anvari and thinks her hijab is awesome. Her mom says the decision shocked her.
My kids didn't know what had happened, so I had to, on the spot, try to explain to them why a teacher had lost her job because of, sorry.
The outcry made the Quebec law a hot topic in Ottawa again today.
If they want to wear a hijab, it should be their choice. It's not government's business to impose what to wear and what not to wear.
Others took to Twitter to call on the federal government to act. Conservative MP Kyle Seaback calls the bill a disgrace and says it has to be opposed in the courts. And while the three main federal party leaders say they personally oppose Bill 21, not one of them has committed to a federal intervention to challenge it in the courts. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, family, as you can see, this hijabi sister lost her job because of laws in Quebec. The sister's last name is Anvari, right? Fatima Anvari, right? Maybe perhaps a Persian origin or whatnot. But the whole scenario is the same as the brother from Iraq. And it doesn't make a difference where you're from. If you go to any Western country, especially in our time, there is a great pushback from Western governments to control the populations of their countries. Y'all hearing me? And nobody should be surprised. We've been talking about this for a long time. I even just last week or the week before, I believe, right? We talked about the Borders Act in National Borders Act in Britain. Remember that? We put that out there. Bengali brother, dark-skinned Bengali brother. Am I British? Am I British? No, you're not British. Do you have a mirror? Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? These people are not your friends. As safe and as much opportunity and blah, 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 blah you have in the West, they are not your friends. And they have never been your friends. You understand me? These people are the ones who are setting the demographics internationally. They are the same people that divided and divvied up every single country on the planet. They are the ones that cause poverty and warfare in your countries so that you leave your countries and come to the Western countries as refugees to sing their praises, and so that nobody can look at the criminals who are causing death and destruction in your countries. Y'all hearing me? That's the reality. Just imagine, in the same week that the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, had announced that there will be a boycott against the Olympics in China, as well as America. They said they're going to be a boycott. What were they boycotting China for? They're boycotting China because of human rights violations, correct? That's what they're saying. They're telling the world that they are boycotting China because of human rights violations. And what did China turn around and tell the Canadian government? They say, weren't you the same people that had the indigenous in residential schools and whatnot? This imperialism, they're basically telling, China's basically telling these Western colonial powers that we learned this from y'all, right? And you are speaking out of the other side of your mouth because according to y'all, nobody's allowed to be a colonial white supremacist power except for y'all. That's what China is saying. And what is the Muslim world saying? The Muslim world going on television talking about we want our rights from the enemy because you legit don't see them as an enemy. You just don't. You don't. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Walid. You see them as righteous, fair, just people. That's how you see them. And this system of white supremacy, it goes so deep that even recently, what's his face? George Galloway. He said some things that I thought he'd never say, but it just happens to be true. And we've been talking about this issue on this channel for a long time. And if Muslims don't get it together, you're going to see some crazy stuff happen within the next decade. You ain't seen nothing yet, right? Let's go to this next video. Let's go to this next video, inshallah. We're going to watch what the Quebec premier had to say about this instance. Give me 1 second. Let me set this up.
Concerning the teacher in
One second, guys. Let me set this up. There we go.
concerning the teacher in Chelsea who was let go or reassigned. I know you said in French we adopted this law. This is the law. But it's very shocking. It's very upsetting for parents and, of course, the students in her class. How would you explain the situation? I know you have a particular fondness for Quebec kids. How would you explain this situation to the kids who are very upset to lose their teacher?
Okay. First, the school board should have not hired this person in the first place as a teacher, given Bill 21. And I want to remind everybody that the Bill 21 became a law in June 2019. Okay, it was voted democratically by the National Assembly. I think it's a reasonable law, a balanced law, and only, it wasn't the proposal of the Parti Québécois, but in our law, only employees in positions of authority, including teachers, should not wear religious symbols while on duty. At home, in the street, they can do what they want. And Quebec has made the choice of secularism, and I think it must be respected.
Family, we don't have to finger wag or cut down this, I don't even know what to call it, man. This is so silly, man. Look at here. In a system of white supremacy, white supremacists do what they do. This is not a new tactic. We've been telling you that white supremacists, they hide behind language in order to, shield themselves from the look of racism. Y'all hearing me? So in the Nixon era, right, when the advisors of Richard Nixon were telling him, you can't say nigga, nigga, nigga all the time. You can't do that, right? What you have to do is you have to disguise it behind language. You have to disguise yourself behind language. So now you say, we're not fighting the niggers. What we're doing, we're fighting against crime. We're fighting the criminals. We're fighting against drugs. This is a very old tactic. Now, who was the first person to tell y'all that the Muslim struggle is in fact the black struggle? It's the same thing. The same tactics they use against black people, they are now using against Muslims. So instead of saying, we don't want the Muslims, representing in the schools, what are they telling you? They're telling you, oh, we are a secular country and we believe that we're being reasonable by not allowing a religious attire to be worn in the schools. And y'all go for it. Y'all go for it. These are the same people that have colonized your country, sent you warlords, and all of a sudden, they're telling you they're reasonable. These people that you praising day and night, these fair, just people and stuff. Jazakallah khair, Brother Walid, hayakumullah. May Allah reward you and multiply it for you 1,000-fold. And may Allah forgive you your sins and raise your ranks by it in Jannah. Ameen. Ameen. May Allah, everybody say Ameen. Everybody say Ameen. So now, we are living in a time where the general human being in general cannot see the forest from the trees, let alone the Muslims, even though we have the Quran and the Sunnah. Even though we have the Quran and the Sunnah, we can't see the forest from the trees. Because every single thing the enemy tells you, you believe. Hook, line, and sinker. And you haven't studied the history of the enemy to know where this stuff is going. So now in France, they have anti-Islamic bills. In Britain now, they're having anti-Islamic bills. In Canada, they have anti-Islamic bills. Donald Trump openly called for a Muslim ban. Openly, he said that. Openly. China, they're killing Muslims. You name a Muslim country, they're killing Muslims there too. Y'all hearing me? And who are you begging for your rights after a Muslim woman is being pulled out of her class during the class itself? During the class, she's getting pulled out of her class, traumatizing little white Jean, you know what I mean? Because it's French, it's Quebec. Jean, not Johnny, you have to say Jean, all right? Traumatizing little white kids. Who are you begging for your rights? The same enemy that put you in this situation to begin with. Language can be used like sihr, very subliminal. Of course. Of course. If you look at the Quran itself is filled with history. It talks about Bani Israel, the story of Yusuf, the story of Ahlul Kahf, Ad and Thamud. All these historical events that happen in the Quran. Why is Allah telling you about these stories? And every single time you see Allah, He calls out the people who didn't believe in these stories. He said, those who disbelieve, they call it asatirul awwalin, like the tales of the ancients and stuff like this, right? What's happening today has already happened in the past. But what we find in our time is like all of these stories are kind of converging into one massive story. So we're living in a time of Ad and Thamud, we're living in a time of Fir'aun, we're living in a time of Qawm Lut. You know what I mean? If you look at those stories, everything that happened back then is happening now. Y'all hearing me? So now, the importance of calling out the enemy has been suppressed because of love of the dunya. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned this. He mentioned that we will be like the scum of the sea. We'll be many, but we'll be like the scum of the sea. Why? Because of a hatred of death and the love of hayat dunya. When you look at how Islam spread, and I don't mean to sound nostalgic or anything like that, but I want us as Muslims to really have some sort of self-reflection, okay? We really need to look at ourselves and what we are doing. Non-Muslims, they don't read the Quran, they don't read Hadith, they read you. And the only real representation of Islam that they have is the way that you act. So if you act in a manner that is, strong and represents Islam in a strong way, in a just way, you know what I mean? And in a manner that holds Islam in a high status, and you are fair with people, and you are just with people, people will respect that, of course. It's going to attract them to Islam. But if you represent or you present Islam in this type of weak, pussified, pasteurized, homogenized, butt-licking, boot-licking, platter, you know what I mean? That everything that a Muslim does, they have to do it under the authority of the enemy, like everything, okay, with the approval of the enemy. Then what is the incentive for people to become Muslim? And this is what people are seeing today. If you look at America, even though they have boycotted in a symbolic way the Olympics in China, these people still found a way to work with China. You understand? But we as Muslims can never find a way to work with ourselves. We are looking for differences from ourselves instead of trying to find the commonalities so that we can progress and build strong communities and have our children have some pride in Islam. But nowadays, pride is in LGBTQs, and Muslims are participating in that. Y'all hearing me? Pride is in what the enemy has given you, like your American passport or your Canadian or your British passport, these type of things. Y'all hearing me? This is where you get your pride from. So if you are bigging up the enemies of Allah in all your countries, in all your kingdoms, and the horses' men in your countries are corrupt, are being controlled and manipulated by the enemy, and you are still praising your enemy after they do all that craziness to your own countries, all that madness that is happening in Afghanistan and Iraq and Somalia and you name it, Pakistan, all this madness. In Palestine, in Syria, in Egypt, all this craziness, and you still find a way to praise an enemy? Do you deserve victory? Put it in the chat, please. Does a person like this deserve victory? Put it in the chat. I want to know if I'm crazy. Do you deserve victory? Thank you. Rabia says no. I agree. I agree. She says hell no now. I agree. You don't deserve victory. How? And on top of that, the blueprint for victory is not only detailed in the Quran and the Sunnah itself, but you have an actual practical example of how to attain victory from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. A practical, real example. And what we do as Muslims, we have an idea of selective justice, selective brotherhood. Selective, practice of Islam. So we have good manners with the kuffar and whatnot, but the Muslims, we have horrific manners. Let's be real today. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Hayden. I'm leaving the link in the chat if anybody wants to join me and hop in on this topic. Right? I want to show you something, actually, since I got you guys here. Just let me set it up for you, man. Right? But I want to show y'all something. Right? Just to show you, does an ummah like this deserve victory? Okay? This is something that somebody sent me earlier this morning. Right? I want y'all to see it, inshallah. And you tell me, does an ummah that thinks like this deserve victory? Okay? Let me get it up for y'all. Let me get it here. Y'all tell me, does an ummah that thinks like this deserve anything that resembles victory? Okay? You think it's cap. Links in the whatchamacallit? The chat for anybody who wants to join me today, inshallah. Now look at this. Why are Somali men in Canada allowing Somali girls to marry ex-Jamaican convicts? Can't they see their sisters are being manipulated? The Asian would never allow his fellow Asian to marry a Tyrone. So the question is, since we're all talking, the big topic of the last couple of weeks was Muslim first, right? That was a big topic, right? Are you Muslim first or black first, right? Since we're on the topic, what y'all call this? What do y'all call that? I need answers because so many of y'all, you don't attack this at all. You attack me for pointing it out. Every single time I point something that like this out, you ain't got nothing to say about this stuff, but you got all this work for the Feachaz and the people who follow the Feachaz or whatnot, and those of us who really hate oppression. We hate it with every single fiber of our being, and we speak out against it. We don't care what anybody says. Is justice for everybody or justice for nobody? We are reading the Quran and we're seeing Allah warning those who are oppressors every single time that Allah is Shadid al-Iqab. Yes, you can come and speak on it. The links in the chat. I'll put the link up again. Right? Allah is saying in the Quran that Allah is Shadid al-Iqab. You have no work for the oppressors, whether it's in Libya against black people, whether it's in the States against black people. You have all this work against the people who are fighting the oppressors. And you have nothing to say against these people. But I'm the one who's wrong, right? It's me who's wrong. Is this the ummah? This ummah right here, is this the ummah that's going to gain victory from the enemy? Yes or no? When we think like this. Hayden, hayakallah, Sheikh. I got no answer, just a wait for a verbal. Allah reward you, Akhi. Ameen. Sister Rabia, what you got for us?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hold on one second. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. We're good.
Okay. So, and this is because I feel like I get a lot of static from a lot of sisters for pointing this out amongst the sisters. This is what I say. This is what I'm saying when I say that there are certain ethno groups, even though they're black, just like you and me, that don't consider themselves black, just like you and me. And the reason why I feel so disrespected and the reason why I'm so offended by this statement is because I know when that person said Jamaican, they're not just talking about Jamaican. They're talking about all of us who are born here in the West. Because I've heard this more than once, but it doesn't matter what island you're from. It doesn't matter what place you're from. As long as you're from the West, they see you as that. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? And
yeah, the thing that you're mentioning about Jamaican.
Pardon me?
This thing you're mentioning about Jamaican, how they see us as Jamaican. Those of us who are like indigenous Westerners, growing up, as particularly in Canada, I'm not sure how it was in the States, but more particularly in Canada, right? In Toronto specifically, I would say, right? In the GTA area, now known as the GTA, right? Everybody would ask the typical black person, are you Jamaican? They wouldn't ask where you're from. They would ask, are you Jamaican? Because the influence that Jamaicans had in the times of the 80s and the 90s, you know, there were many immigrants from Jamaica and whatnot, and their culture, the Jamaican culture, was very dominant in those times. Now it's spilled over because you got to understand that, again, the Somalians are here in the West because of the civil war that happened in Somalia. And who accepted them with open arms? Which community accepted the Somalians with open arms?
It was us.
It was us. It was black people. We accepted them. You understand? As we always do, right? We
Right.
accepted them with open arms. And by and large, now I wouldn't say by and large, but there you could say now, because they're new here, right? They're new. They've been here since the 90s. They haven't figured it out yet. You know what I mean? Because they got no history here. And they are trying, there's an element from the Somali community that's trying to superimpose Somali culture, like every other Eastern culture, in the West. And it's absolutely not only is it not working, particularly for the Somali community, but it's disastrous. Because I've never seen, like, I can't think of a community that's come over as a refugee class and fallen into criminal elements. You understand? So much so that the government was writing, documents about that stuff, about the Somali community and criminal elements on that. Maybe one day I'll show what I've seen, in terms of the government documents, even documentaries written about it. You know what I mean? But it's insane, right? But I want to go back. I want to share again, right? Real quick, because really the point is that if you think like this as a Muslim community, while you have Russia and the States who are supposed to be enemies, you have Britain and France who are supposed to be enemies, you know what I mean? And still they find some way to work together. And we got this. Even Allah says in the Quran that don't think that the hearts of your enemies are united, because they're not. You understand? So if the hearts of the enemies are divided, then where is this coming from? You feel me? Where is this coming from? And you have a lot of issues in the Somali community. You know this. This is insanity. But again, the ummah that thinks like this ain't gonna do squat against the enemy. How? How are they going to do anything against the enemy? You out in the West, legit, you're not in Somalia. You're in the West. Everything, every right that you have, it was an indigenous Black person that paved that path so you can get those rights. And then you turn around and spit in our face and then complain when the same enemy that we were warning you about does something against the Muslims. Like, what reality is this? There are certain things that are happening in a Muslim community that are just just shocking to me. I'm like, how are these people even thinking like this? I don't get it. How can we, there's very few of us who are trying to point out these things, be the only ones who are seeing this stuff. We can, are you seeing the same thing that we're seeing here? Are we watching the same stuff? It can't be. It can't be. When you have the biscuits and the coons, and alhamdulillah, like those of you who were at the coon rehab and the butter biscuit intervention, alhamdulillah, at least one of them came on, was brave enough to come on. You saw for yourself. You saw for yourself what we have to deal with as Black people when somebody, a Black person, can look and watch the victims of Black slavery, anti-Black, anti-African slavery, telling you that, yes, this is happening in Libya. They are the victims of this. And they can still dismiss it and say, no, that's not racism. But some Somalian woman saying that we're Black first and not Muslim first is not just racist, it's incredibly racist. And you blame the victims. This is a Black person blaming the victims now, right? Not looking at the causes that led that sister to make those statements. They just look at the reaction. This is the ummah that's going to lead the Muslims into success. This ummah, y'all are tripping. Y'all are tripping. And now in the age of social media, where we have, anybody can have a voice. Anybody can have a voice. You know what I mean? All these so-called du'at, making a mess of dawah all over social media, just making a disaster. That's why I keep saying I don't get involved in the dawah stuff online, because it's a disaster. I only have about 5 dawah channels that I respect. There may be more, but these are the 5 that I respect. I did a video on that, right? But because of the total mess that these guys are making of dawah, that's why I don't get involved in dawah online, right? I don't do it. When I did the butter biscuit intervention, right? Somebody, when I said I don't make dawah online, somebody said your title right here. If you look right here, where it says grassroots dawah on the top, it would be your top right hand corner. They were saying your thing says dawah. That's, you know, the difference between grassroots dawah and online dawah. Can online dawah ever be grassroots? Can it ever be grassroots, people? Come on, get a grip, man. It's like, what you guys are not. Oh man, like the time is just crazy, man. It's insane. What you got for us, Sister Rabia?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like I was having this discussion, but I've also heard this before, and I was just like, nah, that can't be right. But apparently, when they come over here, depending on how they come over here.
1 second, I see Brother Taryn Poole. Come on and join us, bro. Come on and join us. Go ahead, Sister Rabia.
Yeah, apparently when they come over here, depending on how they come over here, they're told not to mix with us. They're told not to mix with the Blacks from the West. Or what I was told specifically about the Somali community was they're told specifically not to deal with Jamaicans.
Yeah, well,
and like
even still, who told them that? Like, where did they learn this stuff from?
Okay, so this,
I mean, like
the sister I know from Ghana, she was told that by the Christian group that sponsored her family to come to the West.
Yeah,
right?
And who sponsors these Christian groups?
Pardon me?
Who sponsors these Christian groups?
Oh, you know who sponsors the Christian group? The government does.
Exactly. Like, come on, like, get with the program. Get with the program. The Christian missionaryism has been part and parcel with white supremacy from the beginning. 500 years.
Yeah. But they don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if they see it as that or if they even recognize that.
How can they? Like, they don't know the history of these people. So that's why they come and they start praising their. And we mentioned this in the beginning. They come here, they praise their enemy. If you are from Iraq and you know that these people destroyed your country, how are you praising? That's what blows my mind. You know what I mean?
It's asinine too.
Yeah, like how you're not that far off in history to know that this is the same government that messed up your country. They are the ones who put Saddam Hussein in charge of your country, which caused the police officer to come into your house, kick down your door, and assault your mother.
I'm almost wondering if they're even taught their history? Like, are they taught their history? Do they know exactly what happens in their own country?
This is how far we've fallen, because actually history, as like a legit science, it started with Islam, right?
Mhm.
The only history book, like you could say, it was a history book, so like as a type of history book, was the Bible before that, right? But it was taught as like a more of a religious text, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the Jews and stuff, right? But with the Muslims now, the Muslims who are the ones who perfected the science of history. You know, they're the ones who made up the terms of sirah and tariq, and like sirah is like sirah when you're talking about the history of prophet. Because what was happening in excuse me, around the I want to say about the first century or so after the Prophet ﷺ died, right? There were many da'if hadith spreading. So you had people like Ibn Ishaq who wanted to make a historical record, right, to show the history of the Prophet ﷺ. You understand? So it was that science was perfected with the Muslims. Now,
Right.
like even if you look at the sciences in general, like the Sahaba and whatnot, they were an illiterate people, and they pushed themselves to learn how to read and these type of things because of the Quran, because of the statements of the Prophet. That's what pushed them, and it brought them into excellence. You
Right.
understand? You know, if you look at Black people, when we convert, we don't think like that because we are so traumatized from the church and slavery and whatnot, you know, from reading being illegal and whatnot. So we have been, you know, like psychologically assaulted and thinking that we can't do anything, and we have to pray and wait for Allah to do something for us, for things to happen. And that's not that. Islam has never worked like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, anyway, continue, Sister Rabia.
No, to jump onto what you're saying, like as far as being psychologically inept, it's like we were taught. I can remember in high school, to be the smart kid was not cool.
Yep.
Right. And it's, I think that the Black community in general still has that with them. To be, it's only now that we're seeing more of being the smart kid is cool. And it's maybe because I'm seeing it that way because I'm older. But
no, there's definitely a global Black awakening that's
awakening, yeah.
Right, because we're seeing the ridiculousness that's happening with particularly with hip hop culture. You know, it's like all these kids running around with tattoos on their faces and rainbow heads and looking skinny like crackies, and
which is crazy because like even if you think about like back in the day, like DDP was telling us you must learn. Like what happened? Like
yeah, that was back in the 90s. Yeah,
it went from that to getting tattoos all over your face and acting like a fool. Like it's almost like, well, we know what it is. We know what it is because back then it was a social awakening to something that they always thought that was going to be a fad. So now they corrupted it to turn it to something totally different, which is an influx of drug culture and everything else, which we never seen back then because it was stay away from it. Now we have movements that encourage it, right?
Yeah. People are kind of waking up, you know, but at the same time, the reaction of the enemy is a reaction against people who are waking up. You feel me? Like the moves that they're making right now, they know, they sense that this global awakening is coming, and so they're getting more belligerent, more in your face about their white supremacy and whatnot. Like right now, as we speak, we have white supremacist Muslims, okay? As we speak, and no Muslim is speaking against the white supremacist Muslims.
Except for you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And you know, nobody who wants to call them out by name, nobody wants to say what it is. And on top of that, you don't find these people whatchamacallit, saying, "Oh, Bilal, you're wrong. No, you're mistaken." No, they know I'm right. What they're telling you, so the fact that they know that we're right about this, because you can't deny it, it just shows that they're signing off on it. This is the ummah that's going to get us out of this condition. The people that sign off on white supremacy. Come on, man.
No.
Come on, man.
But even what you're saying about like Islam, we're like basically, it's perfecting historians. Like even if you think about like just hadith and the correlation of what is sahih, what is hasan, what is da'if, and just that science alone, where it has to be related, right?
Ilm al-Hadith itself is what kind of kick-started what we know as modern science, because that was what put the criticism of hadith narrators was something that's put in the minds of the people that you have to be critical and authentic and try to arrive at the truth and reality of the matter of what matters of whatever thing it is you're looking at.
Right.
You understand? So so this type of science, it led to other ways and other sciences as well, right? And when the fitna happened with the Mu'tazila, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the good things that you could say that happened with Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, right? Because Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, for example, he wasn't a scholar in he wasn't a scholar in any kind of traditional sense of the word, really, right?
Right.
He was like more somebody who was into rhetoric and studying how to speak and speak good. You know what I mean? So in Arabic they call that balagha, right? Like the study of speech.
One with
right?
the eloquent speech, yeah.
Eloquence, right? And rhetoric and these type of things. What this did is it pushed the people to respect eloquent speech. You know what I mean? Right? And at the same time, use good speech to push the Quran and the Sunnah and stuff like that. You know,
and isn't it funny how now we've reverted back to the days of the Mu'tazila, where you have people calling themselves scholars who haven't even graduated the Jamia. Go figure.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So, like, when you look at like these type of incidents that happen in Islamic history, and how the Muslims kind of like navigated through these incidences, right, in these times, right, and where we are today, we've fallen very far because of dogma and a very like moving away from what the Sunnah actually is and what the spirit and the application of the Sunnah is. You understand? That's really the issue that's caused a lot of destruction in the Muslim Ummah today. So now it's easy for somebody in our time to take the talking points of the enemy, right, and say that, oh yeah, it's okay to be an alt-right Muslim, or you know what I'm saying? It's like some weird stuff happening. It's so weird, and it's
Islamic set tripping.
Yeah.
Get down with this person or lay down.
You know what I mean? So, it's just some weird stuff happening, and it's like what is you talking about? Right. But yeah, go ahead. Any last?
That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Really, like barakallahu feekum for letting me address that issue, because that's something that's been on my mind, and I know I get a lot of static for that. But yeah. So
yeah, I mean,
barakallahu feekum for that.
Of course, when you're feekum barakallah, and of course when one of the most difficult things to do in our time specifically is to stand up for what is true. You know what I mean? What is correct. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Taryn Poole.
Hey, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing?
Good, bro. How you doing, man?
Oh man, not bad. I can't speak too loud because it's late here.
Where are you now?
Man, I'm in the UK, so it's kind of late here, so I can't talk too loud.
No problem, sir. No problem. Go ahead, bro. What you got for us?
Not much, man. I just jumped on, so I'm not pretty sure what the topic is about. I read the title or the description or whatever. Muslim teacher has hijab pulled off. I'm guessing this happened in Canada.
Yeah, of course. Yep. It happened in Canada. You know, the place where you would least expect it. You know, in terms of Western countries, but it happened
I know,
right
right?
here in Canada, in Quebec, Canada. Right. So, and we're basically trying to let the Muslims know that what we've been talking about for a long time on this channel, a long time, all the shucking and jiving and tap dancing and booty shaking for the enemy, right? It's not going to bring you izzah. It's not going to bring you strength or honor at all. You know what I mean? Rather, we should be working together and having brotherhood amongst each other instead of all this hatred, because the enemy is expressing their disdain for us, and because they're in power, they are the ones who can control, you know, whether or not you can go to work in hijab or not. You understand? And you begging the enemy to get a job in your hijab and get paid by the enemy is ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. You know, and you shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
no, I think in some European countries, I think like Belgium or something like that, like you can't wear a hijab in a public space. And I think you see more and more of these things happening, which is why like Muslims fighting across sectarian lines. I mean, I don't know how much in reality it happens, but it seems like on social media, it seems like Muslims are always bickering about one thing or another, whether it be race, sectarian stuff or whatever. But it seems like, you know, all of that is just a huge distraction if you look at the bigger picture on what's going on, which is, okay, you have Muslims living. I mean, I don't know about what goes on and I really hate saying the Muslim world because Muslims live all over the world nowadays. But, you know, at least from a Western context, some of that stuff we could put on the back burner and try to maybe cultivate some type of perspective we can bring to our society from an Islamic perspective. That, man, how, you know, it's kind of late. I'm trying to articulate how I have it in my brain, but you know, but basically a lot of the stuff I see going on in the Muslim community as far as the infighting is like it's not even something that we really need to even be focusing on if you look at the wider situation that we're all facing.
Yes.
Such as like from a black, I can't speak for like the wider Muslim community, but maybe from like a black Muslim perspective, you know, what I see going on is that a lot of our children aren't as Muslim as maybe we are. And as a parent myself, I find that to be something very concerning. So something like what so-and-so believes as far as their Aqidah is something that isn't as important to me. As a black Muslim living in the West, when I see my black Muslim friends who are parents, their kids like leaving Islam or just not having that same Islamic ethos. If that can just sum up what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, bro, and that's pretty much my position as well. And I don't sign off on sectarianism, right? I myself, I am Salafi, right? I believe in following the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf Salih. I believe that this is the correct way. However, I don't sign off on dehumanizing other people because of their beliefs, whether they're Muslim or not. You understand? I believe in looking at things in a holistic manner, right? Yes, there are absolutely hypocrites in the Ummah, 100%. I believe that. You know, of course, you have to believe that if you're reading the Quran anyway. Yeah. Yes, 100%. The enemy sends these hypocrites in order to infiltrate the Ummah. And that's from their old tactics, okay? From the time even of the Prophet say something, right? So if they're doing at the time of the Prophet say something, now how much more now? So when you see all this division, right, within the Ummah itself, right, you have to put everything to perspective, right? Is this division something that is indicative of unity or destruction? You understand?
I think for us, you know, as you're in Canada, right?
Yes.
But I still consider, you know, Canada is America. So just for brevity, like for Black Americans, yeah, I think a lot of that stuff isn't really our concern. It's
Yes,
baggage from,
100%.
you know, previous times. And when you look at how Islam came into Black America, to Black people in the Western world, you know, our focus wasn't on any of that stuff, and we were getting a lot of things done, which is why I kind of really feel the Warth Deen Muhammad model of you know, they have their own persuasion, but when you enter their masjids or engage with them on any level, it's a non-sectarian basis. And I think that's what Black Muslims kind of need to get back to. I do, you know, I'm not Salafi myself, but you know, yeah, I'm not Salafi myself, but I definitely do see the utility in it. I know Salafis, they kind of get a bad rap, mostly from Sufis, to be honest. Like they want to blame everything on Saudi Arabia for where the Ummah is at. But if anything, I think it put Black Muslims in a certain way of thinking, of looking at the source material ourselves. And I wish we can kind of continue on with that way of thinking, but in a broader looking at broader material. Because one thing I noticed with Black Muslims is that I don't believe this, but it appears so. And I was watching Mufti Abu Layth's podcast when he interviewed Imam Luqman Ahmed, and he asked a question to Imam Luqman Ahmed, that I thought kind of went over his head. Was that it seems like Black Muslim, why are Black Muslims more dogmatic than most? I think that's something that, you know, we really do need to reflect on, because I don't believe we're dogmatic people. If you look at our culture and how much we've incorporated from wide varieties of influences, and I think even with our Islam, not saying that we need to adopt heretical beliefs or like become so liberal that our head fall off or whatever, or have such an open mind that our brains fall out. But, you know, I still think that we need to have that same culture, bring that same culture we had as non-Muslims of drawing from different sources to create what we have that same mentality as Muslims as well, and not just try to like standardize or canonize our you know, Islamic way of thinking.
Well,
that makes sense.
I'm glad you mentioned about the historical perspective of Black people in Islam in the West, because historically we weren't dogmatic. The dogma was imported. You understand? And I outlined this many times, you know, in some of my videos, right? How I remember back in the 90s, because I became Muslim in the 90s, how Salafiyah was just spreading like everywhere. And it wasn't dogmatic. You understand? It was just teaching the people, educating people about the Quran and the Sunnah, following the stuff, and people were loving it up, particularly the Black community. And it was just spreading. It was spreading like wildfire. And on top of that, we didn't look down on people in those days in the 90s. It wasn't something like what you see nowadays. All that dogmatic stuff that you see right now was imported from Britain and from Saudi Arabia, right? And I can tell you even the things that happen, the people involved, you know what I mean? And I openly say that in the context of Salafiyah, that stuff was injected into the Black community to stop the flow of Dawah to Salafiyah amongst Black people, because the Black community was thriving under Salafiyah in the 90s, right? They were owning businesses and, you know, working together, building masajid, all kind of stuff, right? And then what happened was this war with Sheikh Rabi' happened between him and Abu Hassan al-Ma'arbi, and these British people like Abu Khadija and them, they took that opportunity to throw many du'at and tulab al-ilm, right, off the minhaj, right? So many. And one of the common themes of the people they threw off, you know, the vast majority of them were black, right? The vast majority, not even close, right? They were black du'at. And you mean to tell me that that was a coincidence? Come on, man. There's no way that was a coincidence.
No, don't seem like it.
Way.
And see, I'm interested in this because I only became Muslim in 2013, and even in the Bay Area, California, where I grew up, where I became Muslim, we don't have like a historical black. I don't want to say we don't have a historical black Muslim community, but not like on the East Coast or like in other places of the United States. So I really don't. And even then, I think where I was at. You don't know the history besides what I've read in books. I mean, I have a book called Black Crescent by Michael A. Gomez that talks about the history of Islam in Black America or whatever. But it really touch on the like most recent history in the last 2 decades because I'm kind of interested in what happened.
Yeah, I have an entire series. I dealt with the history of Salafia in the West. Right, it's on my channel. It's like I believe it's a 6-part series, and I go into detail. And there's a brother, Dr. Abdulhaq Baker. He goes into even more details, right? And he's bringing dates and everything, right? Like he's a doctor, right? So he knows the logs and everything. So it's basically it's kind of like it's a proof that this stuff actually happened, right? What you got to understand with the history of Black people in the West, right? Our religion has always been dictated to us by foreigners, except Islam. Islam, came to the West by way of Noble Drew Ali, right? Way back in the day, who got it from the Qadianis, right? Right. Of course, we understand that they're not Muslim. However,
they were doing a lot of dawah in the black. You see a lot of older Black Muslims who are Qadiani.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Because they were very prevalent, or like way back,
way back in the day. Right. However, this is how Islam is. What you mentioned. This is how Islam initially reached the Black community, right? And the Noble Drew Ali, he started his temples, the Moorish Science Temple or whatnot. And then from there you got Elijah Muhammad, right? And then Elijah Muhammad, and then you have the Moors, and they're both doing their own thing. And then of course we know what happened with Malcolm X, right? So the point is that in the 30s, Muslims had already been arriving, like from the east to the west, right? They'd already been arriving from, Syria and these Arab countries, whatnot. However, they participated in white supremacy. They were here just to get the biscuit and stuff, right? That's what they were here doing. Right?
Kind of no different than now in a sense.
Yeah, it's no different. It's no different. Okay. So they're out here getting the biscuit, right? And when Malcolm X died, right, they said that Malcolm X was not Muslim and blah, blah, blah. And Malcolm X had to be buried by the Black Christian church. You understand? And then they told us, right, that Elijah Muhammad is, this and that, kafir, blah, blah, blah. Right? Yes, right. I'm not saying he's not, right? However, right.
But I still think that not to like just on the side note, I still think that we shouldn't run Elijah Muhammad through the mud. Like, okay, he wasn't.
I don't take that route either. I don't.
Okay, cool. Okay, from an Islamic perspective, he wasn't Muslim. I can accept that, but as a social reformer, as a icon in Black history, for what he did, I think he deserves a certain amount of respect. I'm not talking to you, but I hear this coming from non-Black Muslims all the time. Like they just think it's open season on Elijah Muhammad.
To be honest, in the Black social construct, particularly with Black Muslims, Muslims aren't going to leave Islam to become nation, right?
No.
let's just call it what it is. That's not happening, right? However, like anything else, there are things that the nation has done and continues to do that Muslims can absolutely learn from, and they have never had a history of aggression towards Muslims. Never.
No, actually, you know, I used to work for.
It's the opposite. It's the Muslims who have an aggression towards the nation, and that really kind of started like when in the 90s. I didn't really notice any aggression towards the nation like that. Like,
well, I noticed it.
Say that like maybe like in the 2000s, that kind of really kind of kicked in, right? Allahu Alam, right? But I didn't like, we were just back in the 90s. We're like, okay, nation, they're not Muslim, they're not real Muslim. That's it. You know what I mean? All this vitriol and hatred kind of kicked in around the two. And as far as I know, maybe that's from my experience.
Because I used to work for I used to work security with where my boss was part of the Nation of Islam, and a lot of other guys I worked with were Nation of Islam. But at the same time, they hired immigrant Sunni Muslims. I mean, I worked with Sudanese guys, Indian guys, and like you said, I've never seen the nation show aggression towards Sunni Muslims or any other, however they identify Muslims, but it's always been the opposite. But I will say, like you mentioned, it's not something that I would say Muslims go out of their way to do. But when the topic of the Nation of Islam comes up, it's like they can't hold it, bite their tongue at all.
They can't control themselves, right? But ask them about white supremacy, though.
So you get a mixed bag of responses.
You know what I mean? White supremacy, which pretty much destroyed every Muslim country on earth, right? Ain't got no work for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the oppressed Black people, right? They got all kinds of advice. Like
I know.
What I'm saying? Like, oh, don't practice reverse racism, and hate shouldn't produce hate and all this kind of, and we're all brothers and Muslim brothers, and Islam first or Black first, all kind of nonsense, bro. All kind of nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear it all the time about like man, what I hear some immigrants complain or some Muslims complain okay, look at my country, look at what X, Y, and Z or said Western country has done to it. My people are so messed up because of it. And then at the same time, look at me and be like, man, what's wrong with your people? And it's like, man, we live in the belly of the beast. Yeah. You have to deal with foreign.
We were brought here as immigrant. We were to help. We were to labor, the free labor at that. You know what I mean? They were offering Europeans free land and free labor.
Yeah, no.
Free land and free labor.
In the Homestead Act.
In the Homestead Act, you know what I'm saying? You would have to be a fool, an idiot, to get free land and free labor and not become rich.
I know people today who great grandparents benefited from that, came from the Kingdom of Bohemia and got free land in North Dakota. Their family still has that land to this day.
Yeah, to this day. To this day.
Imagine the leg up that gave a lot of families that Black, or even though some Blacks had some Blacks benefit, but not like we were supposed to, it definitely was a huge slight against the Black community. The Homestead Act, they gave, some scraps to some of us, but not like they should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, Black people were promised 40 acres and a mule in the States, right? If you look at the slave countries in the West, like Brazil and Suriname and all the West Indies and whatnot, right? After the slave rebellions throughout South America and the West Indies, these countries just became proxies for colonial powers to usurp resources out of those countries using the same Black labor under the guise of freedom to strip these countries out of these resources. The biggest example that's happening of that right now is Haiti.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Haiti was an incredible embarrassment for the French, because you're talking about Napoleon. Napoleon took over how many countries? But this group of Black slaves on this island with machetes and the will to be free chased his army back. And it wasn't until they threatened, can you imagine, they threatened these Haitians with the full force of the French Navy, as well as wiping them off the face of the earth, if they did not pay reparations for their own freedom to the people who enslaved them to begin with. You understand? These are the people we're dealing with. And then you're looking at France like, why are these French not letting us wear hijab in their country? Are you kidding me? You don't know them. You don't know them. Are you joking right now? Right?
Yeah, I really don't even understand why any Muslim would want to live in France. I mean, I understand. I really don't understand it. It's not even a country I'm interested in visiting because of what I hear going on, and then the amount of atheism that's so rife in France. Nothing against atheists, but I wouldn't want them to have those kind of numbers on me.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's Europe for you. Europe is really falling, which is going to be an interesting situation for Muslims moving forward in Europe because Europeans are moving away, which is, I would just say Europeans have moved away from Christianity, and most of them are just flat out atheists. But while you have a growing Muslim population who is very religious, although you do see on the right more people turning towards Christianity, not as any type of spiritual means to, or any means to some type of spirituality, but as a way of combating Muslims because they see how religious they are.
Yeah. All right, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair, last words.
Man, I don't have any. You invited me on. I would have felt like a chump if I didn't jump on after you extended the invitation. I really like your show, man, and where you're going with it. I've been a subscriber for a minute, and yeah, man, keep up the good work. Assalamu
alaikum. Allah bless you and reward you, and thanks for participating, Akhi.
Yeah, likewise. Peace.
Ameen. Salaam Alaikum, brother Abdullah Isa.
Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How you doing, bro? What you got for us today, bro?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Look, this is got to be the easiest puzzle ever. I'm going to keep repeating until people understand.
Mm-hmm.
Adam alayhi salam. What does it mean in Arabic?
Adam means black. It means like
exactly.
Very dark black. It comes from the root word Adam, right? And it means black.
Okay. Actually, now you know Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
This is what these brothers think of black people. Hashem from Speaker's Corner.
Mm-hmm.
He did a video, and this Christian asked him, "What does Adam mean?" He said dark, and he said he may have been dark.
May have.
They slip up too much.
Let me get this article here. Keep talking, bro. I'm gonna get this thing and I'm gonna show everybody.
So Adam alayhi salam, the black male phenotype in the Bible has been destroyed. Adam alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Suleiman alayhi salam, Dawood alayhi salam, Harun alayhi salam. If you read the stories about Isa alayhi salam, if you read the stories about these black brothers in the Bible, they got the worst sins ever.
Mm-hmm.
They got the worst sins ever.
Well, this is what we know, right? From the word Adam itself. The word itself, it means black or very, very black, right? And this many ulama have written about this already, right? So they already knew, like they know their language and they know what it means and stuff like that, right? However, but when we look at the situation of black people, right, today, right, we can see that there is an aggressive type of like onslaught against black people in general, right? And the way I see it, it's like we remind Iblis of the original Adam. You know what I mean? So he's out to he's like putting some extra work, right?
The biggest fitna makers run the world through finance, media, governments, and militaries. They run the and corporations. They own everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're bloodsuckers. They got blood libels on niggas.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and if you look at, for example, the way that the banking system works as well, right? It's mostly run by people who have knowledge of the book. We're talking about like the Yahudis here. They have knowledge of the book, and they've been using this knowledge as a means to control other people for centuries.
What do you think they got from under Suleiman's throne?
Yeah. Well, if you look at, for example,
Salaam.
If you look at, for example, how these people got kicked out of all these European countries when they were in Europe.
Yeah, but you know, during the Dark Ages, they got documents where they was calling the blacks Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that identity theft started with them people.
Mm-hmm.
And they would call the blacks Jews in the commentary, but would have a white man or a Jewish man as him.
Mm-hmm.
They're identity thieves. They stole everybody's identity on earth.
The Ashkenazi, right? They're like of Turkish origin. They're like, you know, they're kind of like white people, right? But anyways, right? The reason
they come from Japhet.
Yeah, the reason why they became they converted to Judaism. They converted to Judaism around the 8th century or so, right? Or the 9th century, I think, right? And the reason that was because of political expediency, right? They essentially what was happening was Islam was kind of pushing northwards, and Christianity was pushing eastwards, right? And they're in between the Islamic spread and the Christian, not crusaders.
I beg to differ, Aki. I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Well, this is a historical fact, right? Well, hold on.
No, I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Go ahead.
I beg to differ. Okay, the meaning. Now let's take the Star of David. It's 2 pyramids. One's upright and one's under.
Mm-hmm.
You see these politicians like Trump. He would always show the upside down pyramid. Them were black men. Them motherfuckers got so jealous of Suleiman alayhi salam.
Language, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. They bring that out in me. They got so jealous of Suleiman alayhi salam because he controlled the jinn. And that's who they prayed to after they got them books from up under Suleiman alayhi salam's throne. When they was during the time they kicked. Let me ask you this. Which 2 tribes from Banu Israel did Allah save for worshiping him?
Did Allah save?
Yes, he saved 2 tribes. It's in the Quran. I don't have the reference right now, but it's in the Quran. He saved 2 tribes of Banu Israel, and he I don't know what happened to him, but it's in the Quran.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So they got jealous, and then the magicians in Babylon, you know, asked Harun Marut alayhi salam, how do we break up the family unit? And they was writing books.
Mm-hmm.
Suleiman collected later the magic books and buried them under his throne.
We don't believe that Suleiman was practicing magic, right? That's in the
No,
Quran.
no, that's what the Bible says.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
he took the books from the Jews and buried them under his throne, where his throne was. And then during one of the Crusades, the Crusaders dug up under there and got that stuff. And it was the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar were Jews. They started the first banks.
Shay, you're gonna have to do me a big favor on that one, and you're gonna have to source that one. That's the first time I'm hearing that. Right?
What do you want to hear about?
No, I want to hear about Suleiman burying the books of Sihr underneath his throne. Right? If you can source that, it would be,
Okay, I'll try to find. I read it a long time ago.
yeah, it would be great.
I haven't seen it since.
But what we know is that a lot of these people, they claim these things about Suleiman and stuff, right? Because he used to control the jinn, right? And they used to accuse.
He didn't worship magic. He buried the books of magic under his throne.
Mm.
You know, Hamza was talking about this, but he said he didn't know what it was. But I read they were books that they had written magic, and you know, there's ancient civilizations where magic was written on pottery.
Mm. Mm. But what I need you to do is to source that for me, inshallah.
Okay, I'll give you what Hamza said immediately. I'll give you what Hamza said immediately, and then I'll give you Hamza from Speaker's Corner, and then I'll give you if I can find it, because a lot of the stuff I read in the past I can't find no more.
Yeah,
I can't find it on Google. I can't find it, and truthfully, I don't speak Arabic or write Arabic, so I can't look for it that way. But and I know that would be the best way to look for it. But I will say that Hamza knows that they buried something under Suleiman's throne, but he wouldn't say what it was.
All right, so let me just close this up here now. So Jazakallah khair, brother Abdullah Isa.
But I'll post it on this site.
No problem, bro. We're waiting for you. Hayakallah. Jazakallah.
Okay.
Hayakallah. Okay, brothers and sisters, I want to close out, inshallah. Let's see here. 1 second. I was trying to find that thing. I have an article. I have this article where the meaning of Adam. I want to make sure that, you know, I don't want to leave that hanging, right? But let me try to find it. I thought I saved it in my bookmarks, but it might be on my other computer, right? But as like the brother was saying, a lot of stuff is disappearing from the internet anyways, and that's a fact. A lot of things are being just kind of expunged from the internet. So, but I did have this article. It's whatchamacallit? I can't remember who it's from, but they're basically breaking down from so many ulama what the meaning of Adam was. Right, I'll have to find it somewhere, right, inshallah. But I want to close out, inshallah. I want to say Jazakallah khair for everybody for participating. Hayakumullah. May Allah reward all of you. Jazakallah khair for the brother who donated. I believe it was, let me see. Can't remember. I can't remember. But everybody who donated, Jazakallah khair, hayakullah. Thanks for the brothers and the sisters who came on and participated with me. Jazakumullah khair. And may Allah, you know, keep us firm and steadfast upon the sunnah, and may Allah keep us upon brotherhood. Jazakumullah khair. Hayakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sister Tika. Hayakallah. Last minute donation. Hayakallah for your donation. May Allah reward you and multiply for you 1,000-fold. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.